There we go. And here, that's it. Okay, so hi everyone. I'm Anna Bruno. Welcome to Acceleration Circle Book Club. Today we're discussing chapter 2 of Psychology of Money, written by Morgan Housel. And then, if you recall, and if you've been following us on WhatsApp or Telegram, you know that once we finish our discussion on the chapter 2, I also want to talk to you about the topic of value of money, time value of money. By show of hands, you can put it in the chat. How many of you are familiar with the concept of time value of money? You can speak or you can put your comments in the chat. Okay, we have here Crowther is saying, let's see, it's saying yes, very good. And I'm sure whoever doesn't know is going to learn all about it today. So, chapter 2. In the book, if you read chapter 2, the author discusses the difference between um, luck and I guess, and being lucky and unlucky, right? So risk and luck. So he talks about the risk and he talks about luck and also the importance of risk and the importance of luck. So who wants to go first? Who wants to share? Okay, Arminejan, share your thoughts about chapter 2. Be very specific in terms of what your takeaway was and how you're applying that in your life, or give us some examples of how you're understanding the examples in chapter 2.
This was very good chapter because usually we don't want to think about importance of luck. And for example, in my case, failure, Bill Gates once said that success is a bad teacher, and it seduces smart people into thinking they can't lose. In our language, we call it star illness, and sometimes, but it works in opposite sides as well. And failure can be a bad teacher because it tempts smart people to think their decisions were terrible. But we need to focus on doing our best and also accept that luck and risk are part of the game, and not everything depends on us and our decisions. This was the takeaway for me, as I usually think that it was my wrong decision, and I always think that I was wrong. But
That's
sometimes
amazing.
I can't do
Uh,
anything
yes.
because of
Anybody else has
circumstances.
anything else who wants to add to Armine's comments?
I would say that in this case, Gates had the luck because dozens of people were at, let's say, he's equally talented as him, but they never succeeded, right? And I think this chapter is all about that. We usually underestimate luck and overestimate our efforts. And yeah, it
And this
shouldn't be.
concept doesn't only apply in investing, but this concept applies also in business in general, because oftentimes when you see a successful business or when they have these celebrity CEOs of companies who get paid millions and millions of dollars, oftentimes society contributes the majority of the success of the company to their ability. But oftentimes, what we fail to recognize is the fact that there was also a lot of luck involved, being at the right place at the right time, having the right break, having, coming across the right customer, the right situation, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, definitely there is that. And also there was a,
May I
yes.
add something? I remember we always talk about circumstances and company failed because of something like unexpected, like wars, maybe sanctions, maybe COVID or financial crisis. But nevertheless, Zoom video communication company experienced unexpected growth during the COVID. And during 4 months, the growth was in 3 or I don't know how many thousands%. So this is the opposite side.
And can anybody bring up an example of a failure? How does failure affect our actions and also our decision making?
Titanic.
Yes. Anybody else? Anyone
Yes.
else?
Yes, I can talk about failure. Failure definitely put a damper on your mindset and your belief in yourself. So even top businessmen or investors sometimes hit a block when they experience some failure, and then they need to go it over. They need to change their attitude. They need to make a mind shift, and just keep going. And you see that everywhere.
And I just want to share one more thing. I don't know if you guys follow tennis at all because I'm a big tennis enthusiast. And then when Roger Federer retired from the sport, I don't know if you guys ever heard his final speech. Did anybody heard his speech? And you
Yes.
have you heard it?
Yeah,
What
it's
was
funny.
his point in his speech? Can you share with me? What did you take away from it?
It was like he only won 53 or 54% of all his points. So that's just more than half of all the points that he won in his whole career. But just between him and the second place guy, there was only 1 or 2%. And that's the point. You don't need to be 80 or 100% success. You just need a bit more than half, 50%.
And if you recognize the fact that oftentimes in whatever we do, there is a very important role of luck versus risk. What I think, what I took away from his speech is, especially with somebody who likes to play tennis, you take each game, one game and 1 point at a time, right? You fight for each point, 1 point at a time. You don't worry about what was the point before, what happened before, because every time you get your new chance, to your new set of, circumstances, and then during that point, the role of luck and role of risk is always there. So you take one step, 1 point, one game at a time to win the entire set, right? And again, this can apply not only in a game of tennis, but it can also apply in business. It can also apply in investing. Any comments or thoughts about that? Who hasn't participated? Let's see. There we go. Go ahead, Inga.
Hi, Anna.
Hello, dear.
Hi, all. I joined like 1 minute ago, so
So let me quickly summarize. For those of you who just joined, just letting you know, we're discussing chapter 2 of the book Psychology of
yeah.
Money, written by Morgan Housel, because I know there's a couple of new people today. What we do every week is we read one chapter and we talk about it. Last week we talked about chapter 1, and do you guys recall what was the takeaway from last week from chapter 1? Who remembers?
The most takeaway was that you have to be careful that very big thing is where you are from, and your experience about money is going from this your experience, your life experience, and your country and your how you live, where you live, and so different people have different experiences about money and finances.
Okay, and anybody else? Anybody else wants to add anything else so far what we've discussed for chapter 1 and chapter 2? Because we're gonna wrap it up and we're gonna talk about time value of money.
So about chapter 2 about luck and risk, right?
Yes.
That real risk is a very big thing in finances, and the huge part of it is merged with luck. Success is very very often influenced with luck, and we don't really know how can if we don't risk, we cannot know what
So
will
in the
come.
book, in chapter 2, Morgan Housel brings up the example of Bill Gates, and then he had his friend Paul Allen, and
Yes.
they became friends early on. But remember, in the book, he also talks about a third friend. There was another friend that was
Yes, who
part
who
of the
passed
group,
away.
correct? And he was just as smart, if not smarter. And probably he would have done really, really well, and he probably would have been a co-founder of Microsoft and so on. And then what happens? He talks about the fact that unfortunately the third
Yeah,
friend
he died.
dies in an accident, right? So he experiences the opposite side of luck, which is risk, right? So he experiences risk, and then Bill Gates experiences luck, Paul Allen experiences luck. There's another example I want to bring. It's not in the book, but I want to bring an example of Warren Buffett, because Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, who is his partner, also had a similar story, because when Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger were young and they were starting to dabble in investing, they also had a third partner. They had a third partner, and what happened is as they started investing, um, the third partner obviously didn't succeed, and also he did not become known. Obviously, no one even remembers. I even don't remember his name. It's in the book somewhere, but I don't remember his name. But of course, everybody knows Warren Buffett's name and Charlie Munger's name as one of the best investors in the world. And the story goes that the third friend, who was a child at the time, and then as they were growing together, the reason he didn't succeed was because he was trying to take shortcuts. He was trying to take shortcuts. He was trying to take risks with his investments. And in fact, what he did when he was investing is he started utilizing margin. Do you guys remember I explained to you what is margin last week? So the third friend was trading on margin. And what happened is when the investment went against him, if you recall what margin is when you borrow money to have more money to invest, right? So let's say you have $1,000 and you can buy 100 shares of a stock, but then you say, well, why don't I borrow money from the bank or from the brokerage company? Now the bank can loan you another $1,000 for your thousand. Now you have $2,000. So when you buy stock, now instead of buying 100 shares, now you can buy 200 shares. So when you're correct and now your 200 shares goes up, if your stock goes from $5 a share to $8 a share, now you're experiencing $3 gain. If you didn't leverage, then you would have had 100 shares and you would have made $300 in profits. If you leverage, meaning you borrowed money and you got to have 200 shares, now your profit is $600. So leveraging is good when things are going well, and leveraging is terrible when things are going bad. So in a situation of a margin, when you buy something, you buy an investment and the stock market goes down, when the market goes down and the account value goes down, you experience what it's called a margin call, which is when the bank knocks on your door or the brokerage company knocks on your door and says, Inga, Anna, whomever, okay, you guys did a good job, but your account's down, your account value is down, and now you have 3 days to pay back a certain percentage of the loan that you took. And oftentimes you either have to put cash in, you have to get cash from somewhere else, or you are forced to sell your investment when it's down at the worst possible time. Why am I refreshing your memory about this? Is because the story goes when Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett were doing their investments, their third friend was actually doing investments, but he was utilizing the technique of leveraging. He was trading on margin. And because he experienced the side of risk, not the luck. He did not get lucky. He was wrong. The market went against him, and he was forced to sell those stocks at the worst possible time when they were down. He lost most of his money, and he basically became obsolete. So no one even recalls his name. I don't even recall his name, but that's the reality and that's the story. But the truth of the matter is, when you read Warren Buffett's biography, or listen to some of his talks and podcasts and so on, he talks about this scenario, and he says that their third friend was just as smart and just as capable, probably smarter than he was, but
But not
you know,
lucky.
but he wasn't lucky. So again, why am I bringing these examples? Because it's very important we really like sort of deep down, dig it down and find out like the role of risk and the role of luck. Any other comments or any other questions about this chapter? Because we're going to go ahead and start talking about time value of money. Any other comments, questions? Anyone? Comments or questions about chapter 1 and chapter 2? Let's see,
No.
there's somebody wrote something. Let's see what I say. Apologies, it's okay. All right, good. All right, so time value of money. Who can tell me what is time value of money? And I put in a quiz in our chat. Who can tell me what's the answer to the quiz? Okay. For those of you who are not in our group, Maria John, if you don't mind, if you have the link, can you just drop the link here for our WhatsApp and Telegram group so people can join? Because oftentimes we throw in some information, puzzles, questions, comments about the chapter. So this way everybody can participate. So let's talk about time value of money, and then we'll come up with some examples. I'm going to share my screen real quick. Let's see. Can you see my screen? Yes or no?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. All right. All right, so we'll start with this one. And here we go. There we go. Okay. So time value of money is the fact that whatever money you have right now versus the same amount of money in the future, you have to take into consideration the effect of inflation on the power of the money and the power of the use of this money, right? So what the difference of having $1,000 today or $1,000 10 years from now is, even though it's the same $1,000, the difference is that the buying power of today's $1,000 is a lot more than the buying power of tomorrow's $1,000 or $1,000 from 5 years from now. Does this make sense?
Yes.
So according to, again, these are my cheat sheets, my notes, but the reason that money today is worth more than the same amount of money in the future is because of money's capacity to earn more money. And that's called compound effect, that compound rate, which we're going to talk about. If you deposit money today into a bank account, it will earn more money as long as it remains there, right? So you're earning money. Now, when you deposit money in a bank account, there's two types of returns that you could have. You can have what it's called a simple rate of return, or you can have what it's called a compound rate of return. So simple rate versus compound rate. Now, I'm going to stop sharing for a second so I can see you guys and tell me, who can tell me what is the difference between simple rate versus compound rate? Does anyone know what that is?
No.
And why do we even care about it? For example, let's say you go to the bank and the bank teller tells you that, oh, Miss Bruno, thank you so much for coming. We have this great package for you today. We're offering CD that's paying 7% simple rate of return for 5 years. And then that was Citibank. And then I go to Chase Manhattan Bank, which is another bank in the US, And then the bank teller tells me, Miss Bruno, thank you so much for coming. We have the best package for you. We are offering CDs, which are certificates of deposit. We're offering CDs for 5% rate, but 5% compounded rate. So I have an option. I can take my $1,000 and buy a CD that's paying me 7% simple compounded rate versus I can buy a CD that's paying 5% compounded rate. What's the difference and which one would I choose? Let's take a vote. Who thinks I'm better off to buy a CD that's paying 7% simple rate? And who thinks I'm better off to buy CD that's paying 5% compounded rate? And let's see if I can use my, I think we should be able to use, there it is. Do the sums. Okay, who is that? Armine. Okay, Armine Can, tell me which would you choose and why?
When we choose compound interest rate, it means the second year, your percent works on a bigger amount of money. And in this case, your growth is more fast.
Okay.
Your money grows faster.
Okay. So let's come up with an example. Let's say you have, let's take our $100. If I have $100 and I'm getting 5% interest at the end of my investment, my $100 will earn me 5%, right? So in a scenario of simple rate of return, every year my $100 will earn me 5%. So year 1, 5%, year 2, 5%, year 3, 5%, year 4. So you get the point. Every year I'm making 5%, right? Now, with compound rate of return, what happens is the same $100 is earning me 5%, but now this 5% gets added to my initial investment. And now year 2, my 5% is calculated based off of not just the $100, but it's also the $100 and the $5. So now year 2, with the compound rate of return, I'm earning $100. I'm earning $5 on the initial $100, but year 2 I have 105. So now I'm earning, let's say, $5.05, right? $5.05. Year 3 is the same thing. Now I have, instead of $100, now I have accumulated $110. So now my interest rate is calculated based on $110. So every year my baseline, my initial investment, where I'm starting from, is growing. So even though it's the same 5%, but in the scenario of, in a case of simple rate of return, you're only making the same rate of return every year. In a compound rate of return, your interest is earning interest. In a simple rate of return, your interest is not earning additional interest. So that's the difference. So in going back to my example, if I have a banker who is offering me an investment that's paying 7% simple rate, the other banker is offering me 5% compound. Compound is always going to be better because year 1, the 7% simple rate is going to earn me $7. Year 1, 5% compound is going to earn me $5. Year 2, my 7% is going to earn me another $7. My 5% compound is going to earn me, let's say, $5.50. Year 3, my 7% interest is still going to earn me $7. My 5% compound is going to earn me $6. Year 4, my simple rate of return is still going to earn me $7. My compound is going to earn me $6.50, and so on and so forth. The first few years, the simple rate is going to do better because it's 7% versus 5. But as time goes by, then you're going to have your 5% compound rate is going to catch up and even exceed the rate of return that you're earning, simply because your interest that you're earning every year gets attached to your baseline investment, and now your money is earning money. So your money is, your interest is earning interest, not just your initial investment, but your additional investments. So that's the difference between simple rate and compound rate. Does this make sense? So
Yes.
when we talk about time value of money, we have to say, well, money today is worth more than the same amount of money tomorrow or 1 year from now or 10 years from now because of its buying power. And I actually had some really nice slides that I want to share with you. Let me go find my slides. Let's see here. Let's see, guys. Let me find my slides. Here, let's see. Here we go. Okay, so let me find the slide that I'm looking at and I'm talking about, because I think it is very important that we. Okay. Here's the whole point of time value of money and also compound. If we take this example of two people, one person is investing $100 a month, but they starting at age 18, and the other person is investing $100 a month, but they're starting at age 28, right? So 10 years later, what happens is, and they're both earning the same 8% rate of return. What happens is the fact that, let me see, why is that? Oh, here we go. What happens is the person that started at age 18 and invests until age 65, that's 37 years of investing, they will put in total of $44,000. An 8% rate of return, this is compounded rate of return. Their overall investment would have grown from $44,000 to $310,000. Now, this one is Alex. So we named them. We have them Jane and Alex. So Jane started at age 28 and Alex started at age 18, 10 years earlier, doing the same exact thing. So they put in $56,000 and the same 8% rate of return. Now their money has grown to $1,006,396. So again, speaking of time value of money, if we don't grow our money, then we're losing the buying power of the money. And that is a concept that is very important to remember. And then we also can calculate the same time value of money is when you look at how are you investing your money? Are you putting your money in a cash account, or are you putting your money in a savings account versus in an investment account? The time value of money will make a big difference. If you do nothing at all, the same the money that you have held it for 30 years, the $20,000 that you saved, let's say for 10 years, after 30 years, this $20,000 would be only worth $8,000. So 20 years of time value of the same 20,000 would only be worth $8,420. Now, if you take the same money, the same investment, the same 10 years, same 20 years, and invest the money, now based on 3% inflation and 2% interest rate of return, your value of the money will be $14,794. And then at the same time, if you had 8% rate of return, your money would accumulate to $201,000. Why? Because of the fact that every year you have your money, is earning additional money, your interest is earning additional interest, and the compound effect of the investment is very relevant, whether you're just earning 2%, earning 5%, or earning 8%. Does this make sense? Does this make any sense? Let's go to do a couple of other quizzes because I just want to do a few quizzes in here. Let me just give me 1 second. Let's do another quiz here. Let's say an investor wants to buy a piece of property and she thinks that it can be sold in 5 years for $25,000. If the investor wants to earn 10% rate of return on this investment, what is the most that she should be willing to pay? Let's say we have somebody who wants to invest money, $25,000 in a property, and the investor wants to earn 10% rate of return with this investment. Yeah, and if she's expecting to make 10% rate of return, should she be looking at the present value of the money or the future value of the money, and what should she expect from her investment? Anybody can try to attempt to resolve this question.
As I understand, if I can say,
Yes.
As I understood, he has to think about future value of this money. And think how this grows, how this money will change, like in 5 years, in 10 years, what the value of this money will be in 10 years, if I understand correctly.
That's right. So because the future value of the money will be much higher based on a 10% rate of return. So the 25,000 we should expect to be larger amount than 25,000. So 25,000 today, earning 10% per year, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, it's going to be worth more than $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. So yes, she should be expecting to have an amount of money that's much higher than 25,000, and that would be the future value of the money, right? 25,000 represents the present value of the money, and the growth would represent the future value of the money. Just like in this example, when we went to here, let me just show you this example. If you had $20,000, you had a balance of $20,000, right? Future value of the money is worth 8,000. That means you had a negative return. So your present value is worth 20,000. Your future value is worth 8,000. That means you have a negative return, right? Why is that? It's because of inflation, because every year your purchasing power, what you can do with that money, what you can buy with that money, the services that you use diminishes. At the same token, if you're growing your money based on 5% rate of return, your $20,000, right, starting balance of $20,000, after 10 years is worth 18,000, after 20 years is worth 16,000. So future value of the money, it goes after 20 years is 16,000. So, and after 30 years is 14,000. And again, this is a little bit a complicated example because there's inflation involved. So, you know, if you didn't take inflation into consideration, you would always see that the present value is less than the future value, right? And it's same thing in here. You're starting with $20,000, but because you have 8% rate of return, your future value is $21,253. So there are special calculators that you can use to calculate what is your expected value should be. What is the present value? If the present value is 20, what should the future value be based on what kind of return you're expecting to get from your investment? So that is the thing that, you know, I really wanted to kind of tell you about and talk to you about. I don't know if I was able to make this concept clear to you, but it's really important. There are two important concepts in here. One concept is the fact that whatever amount of cash you have today, when you go like extrapolate into the future, when you fast forward into the future, the money that you have today is going to be worth less in the future. The same money that you have today is going to be worth less in the future. So that's one concept. And that's considered present value versus future value. But the reason this is happening is because of another concept called inflation. And what is inflation? Inflation is one's ability or money's ability to exchange for goods and services. Just like, I don't know about your countries, but in the US, the cost of eggs has gone up almost 25% in like 1 year. Like they said, in the last 3 years, the cost of food in general has jumped up almost 30%. So whatever milk, used to cost $5 a gallon, now it's like $7 a gallon. The eggs used to cost $3 for a dozen. Now it's like $7 for a dozen. The cost of goods as well as the services. If it used to cost only $3 to use the metro, now it's $5 to use the metro. That is the effect of inflation. So whatever money you have today, what you can do with it and how much you can buy with it is different than every year. And that is the reason. The inflation is the reason why we even have the concept of present value versus future value. So I just want to make sure that is clear to you guys. If you are clear, then we can finish up today's conversation, because we discussed chapter 2 and we talked about inflation, purchasing power, compounded rate of return, simple rate of return, and inflation, as I said. Any questions? Same here. Let's see what they said. Let me just see what the comments are. Investment is future based. The future of value money is considered. Same here. Everything has suffered the okay. Where are you from, by the way? Can anybody tell me, like, any comments or questions about what we discussed? Any questions at all? Any questions about simple rate of return versus compound rate of return? Any questions about inflation? Any questions about time value of money? Any questions about what is present value versus future value, and so on? Any questions at all?
I just want to say that these concepts are very useful and very important to know them. In our everyday life, we always deal with money, so it's crucial to know these principles.
So
Especially
can you
when
give
we-
me
when we
can you
would
give
deal
me
with savings
an
and
examples of
investments.
how you will use this knowledge in everyday life? How would you use this knowledge in everyday life?
First of all, not to keep savings at home.
Like under the
And
mattress, right? Like not to
Yeah.
save.
Never.
Yes.
Never,
Okay.
yeah. And not to keep them in maybe savings account or even on deposit account. It's much better to learn about investments and to use low risk investments. In this case, maybe not maybe, but in this case, we can beat the inflation.
For next week, go ahead. Somebody wanted to say something.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So I made a saving account for my child for her future, and every month we put their money. So now I think was it a good idea if we just put money on this account, because now I think that in 5 years it will this money, or is better the idea to invest this money like in 1 year when it will be a good amount.
Let me ask you
Or
a
to
question.
keep.
How much interest are you earning in this account?
Really, I don't know.
Okay, so this brings up a very important point and another concept that I want to quickly discuss, and then I want you guys to put in the chat any other specific concepts that you want us to discuss next week, but in addition to chapter 3. So what you're bringing up, Inga, is very important. Here's what I would say. When it comes to investing, when you put money in an account, Again, in most banks right now, when you go put your money in a savings account, most banks are not paying a lot of interest for the savings account. And our inclination is we're going to say, why should I put my money here? Because I am not earning a lot of interest. But remember, what is the number one rule of financial planning? Who can tell me? If you've been following my channels and if you've been listening to me, you should know what is the number one rule of financial planning. I know Maria
Spend
knows.
less than you earn.
Yes, that. But there is another one. What is number two rule of financial planning? Financial well-being. So that's number one rule. What's the number two rule?
To have the goal.
Close, but what is something that we absolutely have to keep in mind in order not to have problems down the road?
To have your saving like couple of months
Emergency
of
money.
emergency
You have to have
fund,
emergency
yes,
money,
yes,
right?
yeah,
So to
emergency.
Inga's point, in Inga's example, right? If I go put money in a bank and I'm putting money every month, say I'm putting $100 every month, but I'm not earning a lot of interest. Let's say the bank's paying me 1% or 2%. But I could
Yeah.
earn 8% in the stock market, right? I could earn 10% in the stock market. What should I do? Let's take a vote. Who thinks that Inga should go ahead and take all the money and put it in the stock market? By show of hands. Who thinks that's the right way?
Now
May
I
I
think
answer?
now I think too that it
Wait,
will
wait,
be a
wait, wait,
good
wait, wait,
idea.
wait, wait. There's a reason why I'm asking these questions. Who thinks we shouldn't do that? Okay, Maria,
Me.
Armin, okay, so let me explain why. If Inga takes her money and says, well, the heck with the bank. They're only offering me 2%. The hell with your 2%. I'm gonna just go take my money and buy Nvidia stock. Nvidia stock's down. Perfect timing. I'm just gonna go buy Nvidia stock at $117 a share. Or I'm just gonna go buy the S&P 500 index, right? Now, why shouldn't she do that, or why should she do that? The first question that she should be asking herself, and I, as a financial consultant, would be asking of my client is, what is the purpose of this money? What is the purpose of this account? What is the time frame associated with this account? Why do you need this money? Because if this money is her spending money, or is that this is the money that she relies on, then we treat it very differently. If this is just an investment account, we treat it very differently. The point that I'm trying to make is that whenever you're looking at some investment and saying, what should I do with it? First thing you have to do is to make sure that you have some money set aside for emergency purposes. And when I say emergency purposes, what I mean is that whatever your monthly bills are, let's say you have rent or you have mortgage and you have a car payment, you have insurance, you have food, you have other, payments that are coming, you have other expenses. You calculate all your expenses. That's called budgeting. You understand what your monthly expenses are. Let's call it $5,000 a month, just for calculation purposes. Then you need to have, at the very least, 3 times, which means $15,000 in the US. If I was living in the US, and if my monthly expenses are minimum 5,000 a month, which higher than that, but let's just say it's 5,000 a month, then I would need to have at least $15,000 in the bank without having to worry about, does this money earn me interest or not? I could care less, because that's not the purpose of this money. The purpose of this money is to be there if I need it. The purpose of this money is, if my car breaks down and I need the car to go back and forth to work, I need to have the money to fix it, right? The purpose of this money is, if God forbid, something happens and I get sick and I cannot, go to work, and my job is a consulting job, and if I don't work, I don't earn. So that what's going to happen? This money is there for me to use when I need it really, really badly. Generally speaking, at the very least 3 months, I usually like to see 6 months of expenses. So based on my $5,000 monthly, I would have to have $30,000 in a bank account. And with a conventional wisdom, Inga, I wouldn't worry about, is this money earning me money? Because usually when you put the money in a liquid place, in a platform where it's liquid, typically you don't really earn a lot of interest. Now, you could get lucky. There's all kinds of different platforms that pay, let's say, 5 or 6%. That's fine. But what you need to concentrate on is the fact that it has to be liquid, which means you get to it whenever you need to without having to pay penalties, without having to lose anything to take the money out of that account. Once that's taken care of, and then Inga, you say, all right, now I'm going to start an investment account, and this is just my investment money, and I'm going to put $100 a month. Now you can say, all right, how do we invest it? How do we create a portfolio? How do we choose stocks? How do we choose mutual funds? How do we understand the risk of it? By the way, if you want us to discuss the house next week, let me know in the chat so I know what to prepare for next week, okay? But that's how I would break it down. When you look at financial planning, think of it as like three main buckets. Your short-term bucket, your emergency bucket, your mid-term bucket, and your long-term bucket. And all these buckets are different. They have different purposes. They are treated differently. The investment risk associated with those investments are different, and outcomes are different as well, right? So those
Yes.
are the things that I want you to think about. Any questions?
I have a very interesting takeaway, and
Go
I
ahead.
shared the screen in the chat of the formula that I'm using ChatGPT. I just like ask ChatGPT your question. So if we need to reach $25,000 in 5 years, let's say, with a compound interest, right? How much we should invest now? And I think it's very clear. It's like 10% annual compound interest. And this formula really shows you how much you should invest now and how you should reach this $25,000. Usually, I have my investment account, and I do automatic transactions weekly or monthly, let's say. But I have never thought about the amount of money I want to have in X years, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And
Long term.
Yeah, I mean, I know that I should invest systematically, but didn't have this goal of particular amount of money. I think in this case, when we look at things from this perspective, when you have our end goal, let's say, in the amount of money, in this case, you can calculate in a better way and understand how much you should invest monthly or.
That is such a good point, Maria. And I'll tell you something. As a financial planner, when we to sit down with people, it's so funny. You know, the most important, it's a universal question that I ask to everyone. And I think we'll make a video on this one. When my clients come in, you know what they ask me? You know what's the number one question they ask me?
How should I become a billionaire?
Yeah, that too. But there's another one. Everybody asks me, what's my number?
Okay.
You know what that means? When somebody comes and tells the financial planner, what's my number? What do they mean by that? What's my number? What's your number? What do they mean by that? This is such an important question. What's my number? They ask me. What does that mean,
And
guys? Can somebody
I
tell
think
me
it's
what that
the
means when somebody's saying, what's my number?
the number that you need to live and to everything,
To retire,
right?
maybe.
So
retire.
basically,
How much-
everybody, every one of us, myself including, we all have this number in our head, in mind, right? That we envision, like let's say, if money was no up to a problem at all, if I didn't worry about earning income, and I could do anything I want, I could do any job I want, you know, I could volunteer, or I could teach, or I could travel, whatever it is, right? How much money do I need every month to take care of my bills, take care of my basic needs, my basic necessities, right? Let's say I have a home or I have an apartment. It takes whatever, you know, the amount of monthly income it takes for me to sustain my lifestyle, right? Now, of course, again, present value money versus future value money. We have to remember about inflation. So if somebody came to me and they're in their 20s or 30s and they said, well, I want to have $10,000 a month of income, forever. As a
No.
financial planner, when I do the financial planning, I take inflation into consideration. So $10,000 today, if I need $10,000 20 years from now, it's not 10,000. It's more like 30,000. And what I will encourage you to do today is, if you guys want to know what your number is, because as a financial planner, the two most important tasks that I do for clients is they come to me and say, I want to retire and I want to have $1 million by the time I'm I'm ready to retire. And it could be any age, could be age 65, 55, 75, whatever that age is. So a lot of times people come to me and say, well, I'm working, I have a retirement plan, I have pension, I have this, I have that, I have a house, I don't have a house, whatever it may be. When can I retire? And then the question is, how much income do I need to be able to retire and have this perpetual income that's going to sustain me for the rest of my life, right? So I don't run out of money. So that question is, what's my number? Then what we do is we basically calculate everything backwards. If a client comes to me and says, I want to have $10,000 a month in future dollars, in future value, not today's value, 10,000 in future value, then I want to be able to retire at age 55. And I expect to live at least like 35 more years, 40 years, right? I want to have ability to never run out of money, because people are worried. People are concerned. Whatever I've accumulated, even if it's $10 million, if you spend $2 million a year, you'll run out of money. So you have to understand, whatever money you've accumulated, what do you need to do in order for you not to run out of money? And that is a very important exercise to go through. So what I'll tell you for today is, if you guys want to know what your number is, drop it in the chat or in our group chat, doesn't matter, or you can DM me separately. What I'll do is I'll run in some calculations for you. If you came and told me, I have I'm, I don't know, 40 years old, and, I want to retire at such and such age, and I want to have such and such income, and I want to, you want to be conservative with inflation or not. If you want to be conservative, we'll take 3% inflation. If you don't want, or 4% inflation, depending on what number we choose for inflation, I will run those calculations to tell you what you need to do today to accumulate your desired amount of money. It's a very, very important calculation. So if you want that for next time, drop it in the comments, or, DM me separately, and I will run those calculations and we can look at some calculations. And then, because once you see it for yourself, it's easier to stick to the plan. It's easier, like you see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's easier to be disciplined when you see progress, right? And everything starts with writing your goals down. This is another very important part of financial planning. So for somebody to say, oh, I want to retire rich. What does that mean? Like, you have to have specific goals, specific numbers. You have to understand what your budget is. You have to understand what does it take to live your life. And again, there's different levels of life, right? You can have luxury or you can have basics. So let's cover the basics first before we worry about luxury. But if you want that, you guys are probably, most of you are in our chat at this point. Drop in I just need your today's current age, your either current income or current expenses, and when you want to retire and how much money you want to have for retirement. When you want to retire and how much money you want to have for retirement. I will run the calculations and we can have another discussion next time. So we're almost running out of time because go ahead.
Let's answer these questions, and then I think it was super insightful, Anna. Thank you.
Yes.
What would you say about investment in real estate versus money market in relation to future value of money?
Oh, we had that. Let me just bring up that. Yes, we have 3 minutes, unfortunately, because of a 1 o'clock, but let me bring up that. That's a very good point.
I think we covered partially
we did last week, and of course we're not gonna have a lot of time, but let me Let me bring it up because that is such a good point, Maria. Where is my Word document? Hold on, guys. Let me find it because I prepared such a good document for that. Let's see, is this one? This is renting versus owning, and this one is, yes, okay. So if you recall, last time we touched on this. This is $10,000 investment starting in 1980. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. $10,000 starting in 1980 until 2025 in real estate versus different types of investing, because a lot of times people assume real estate is the best type of investment. But if you look at historical rates of return, we have investment types. Obviously, we already all agree holding cash is bad because of inflation. We lose money about 3% per year. We lose money. It erodes the value, right? So your future value is actually negative, less than it was. So 10,000 is worth 8,000 or 7,000 or something like that. Now, if you were to invest money in gold, it has average return of 4%, 3.6% to be exact. So if you put down $10,000 in gold, it could be gold coins, it could be, sorry guys, it's my son. My son's coming home, and let me just open the door for him. I forgot to leave it open. Hold on 1 second. Everybody's coming together. Okay. There you go. You opened the door, Alex. Good job. Okay. All right. Sorry, guys. So if you invest money in gold, it's an average rate of return of 4%. So your $10,000 in 40 years would have been worth $36,000, right? So gold was the price of gold was $600 an ounce back in 1980, and in 2024, the price of gold is $2,000 per ounce. Same thing if you bought a house. Average, this is US numbers, okay? In the US, average increase of the house per year, average, could be 1 year went up 10%, 1 year went up 8%, next year went down. Average over time, the house prices in the US have gone up anywhere between 4 and 5%. So if you had put in $10,000 into a real estate investment, assuming you put in 20% down, and you bought a house that was worth $50,000, then that house from 1980 to 2024, that house would have grown from $50,000 to $450,000. Okay, and then I'm not going to get into this because we don't have time. We'll do this next time. Then we will compare it to stocks. If you put the same money, same $10,000 into stocks in the stock market, this one is being represented with the S&P 500 index, which is the top 500 companies in the US. Average rate of return going back historically of the S&P has been between 10 and 11%. It's close to 11%. So if you put in $10,000 in 1980, today you would have $1.3 million of investment. So you answer your own question. Which one you think is better to invest in, real estate or stocks or gold or what? What do you say?
So I think diversification is much better, but real estate is definitely not the best option.
Well,
right?
Equity is the best option. We'll talk about diversification next time. Unfortunately, I have to jump out because I do have a call and I need to attend to that call. But so much looking forward to next conversation. Write your comments, send in your information, send in your questions, and I'll see you guys next week. We'll discuss chapter 3, read chapter 3, and we'll review whatever we discussed this time, and then we'll continue with let's talk about diversification and building a portfolio next time.
Thank
Okay?
you.
Thank you
Okay.
so much, everyone. Have a good
Bye.
weekend.
Thank you. Thank
I will
you.
talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.